A couple days ago, I made a video criticizing the YouTuber Bearing. He made a video about how he believes it's morally justifiable to consume animal products.
Whoa, hold up. A person's morals belong to them. They are a personal set of beliefs. Trying to morally justify something to another person is useless, because what is morally justifiable to me may be completely different to the next person. I think it's important at this stage to clarify our positions on this subject, so here's my position. I have absolutely no problem with vegans or veganism. You are perfectly entitled to have whatever opinion you see fit in relation to your own diet. I do have a problem with people who do not afford me the same consideration. I don't appreciate being directly criticised and disparaged in relation to the food that I eat by people whose advice I have not sought. But at the end of the day, I just don't give that much of a fuck. We're talking about what's for dinner, for fuck's sake. You may as well be arguing about curtains being superior to blinds for all I care. It's just not that exciting. Let's not forget about how this exchange started. A vegan made a video about how barbaric, horrible and shameful it is to eat meat and sent it directly to me. This argument came looking for me, not the other way around.
And in case you don't have enough time to watch my 30-minute response video, here's the gist of it.
Hey buddy, who the hell is used to tell me I can't eat meat? I mean, my ancestors, they ate meat. You know what? I'm a bear. I can do whatever the hell I want.
So, Bearing tried to morally justify consuming animal products.
No, I didn't. I gave a list of reasons I eat animal products. If those reasons don't fit your subjective morality, I don't care, go fuck yourself. You know, in this shit show we call the world, everything's competing with each other. And to get to the top of the food chain, you have to be a bit of a ruthless cunt. I don't sit there and labour over the ethics of eating a steak because fuck you steak, I win, as clearly demonstrated by the fact that I'm eating a steak. What baffles me about you is that you're a bleeding heart pussy when it comes to being a ruthless cunt to other animals, but you're perfectly happy being a ruthless cunt to your own species. See, most vegans I've come across wish no harm on any living thing. They're kind-hearted, gentle souls, and that's understandable, I can respect that. But your way of thinking just seems to be backwards, as we'll see later in the video.
And literally all he did was make logical fallacies. He did not make one single valid argument.
I'm sorry, who the fuck made you the arbiter of validity?
And I guess out of embarrassment, he just rushed out a shitty response video that isn't even 7 minutes long.
Yeah, it wasn't so much out of embarrassment as it was out of I don't care.
Yeah, a 7-minute long video in response to my 30-minute long video.
Yeah, a 30-minute video about food.
As you could expect, he cherry-picked footage and ignored my more significant arguments to spin things in his favor.
Murder is a crime where a person kills another person without justification. Killing an animal for consumption isn't murder.
Yeah, Bearing, let's play word games and use euphemisms to justify morally abhorrent behavior. How about I just take my gun and put you out of your fucking misery? I'm not murdering you, I'm just putting you out of your misery. That sounds much nicer, doesn't it?
I don't think I was being pedantic about the definition of murder. It's important to understand what words mean. Otherwise we can find ourselves in all sorts of bother.
It's not murder, it's putting you out of your misery. It's not murder, it's extermination. It's not murder, it's blowing your fucking brains out.
It's alright, bro. I reckon I'd be a little emotional too if I knew I was never going to have a nice steak again. And a personal question, if I may. How many times a week on average would you say you rape your wife?
Okay, so this argument might confuse you because it's stupid and it doesn't make any sense, but what Bearing is trying to argue here is that if I can call someone killing an animal murder, he could just as easily call me having consensual sex with my wife rape. Now, the problem with this argument is it's a false analogy. If I were to claim someone murdered an animal, you would immediately understand that I meant someone killed an animal. By the strict dictionary definition of murder, murder is the unlawful, premeditated killing of a human being by another human being. But if I were to tell you someone murdered an animal, all I'm doing is removing that anthropocentric context of that word, and it's immediately understandable.
And all I'm doing is removing that consensual context of fucking your wife, and it's immediately understandable. Cow dies, wife gets fucked. Hey, why don't we just say the words that we mean to avoid confusion?
And you're no better than the people who say bacon, though. The only difference with you is you're trying to find clever ways to justify needlessly murdering animals. So all I'm doing here is changing the anthropocentric context of that word. I'm not using an entirely different word with an entirely different meaning to describe what's happened. Whereas if I were to describe me having consensual sex with my wife as rape, that's an entirely different word with an entirely different meaning, and it would confuse everyone. Me having consensual sex with my wife would mean both me and my wife consented to sex, whereas if I said I raped my wife, that would mean I forcibly had sex with my wife without her consent. So again, this is a ridiculous false analogy. Describing someone killing an animal as them murdering an animal makes perfect sense, especially given the right context, as me saying someone murdered an animal would suggest they did it with malice or perhaps without justifiable cause. Whereas if I were to just say someone killed an animal, that doesn't explain whether or not it was intentional or with any kind of malice.
Yeah, moving on, just say the words that you fucking mean. Jesus, fuck.
So again, Baring, you are a fucking moron who has no ability to produce valid, coherent arguments.
Here's a word from my buddy Mike Barbarossa.
Baring is right. Slaughtering an animal to render its meat is not murder, and I'll explain why. Now, let's go back to that dictionary definition of murder. It says murder is the unlawful killing of another person. Now, it's specific kinds of killing another person that is defined as murder. If you kill your former boss to get back at him for firing you, that's murder. A store owner is shot by a robber and he shoots back and kills him, that's not murder. So since murder is the unlawful killing of another person, what makes it unlawful? And the answer is it has to be a malicious killing. You killed the person just for the sake of seeing him killed, seeing him dead. That's malicious, that's unlawful, and that's murder. So let's look at the animal version, the so-called animal murder, and see if it's actually murder. Okay, now let's look at the man killing the cow for slaughter. Okay, for argument's sake, we're going to assume that this is the farmer who bred and raised and fed this cow. Now, why is this cow alive? Why was it bred? Why did it get bred, and why was it born? The farmer went through all of the work and money to breed the cow for the promise of its meat. The farmer then took care of the cow, fed it, and made sure it grew healthy. Why did the farmer do this? For the promise of the meat. Now, at this point, you have to realize, without a demand for meat, this animal never exists. Now, this farmer, in his own free will, created this life. He bred it, he fed it, he took care of it, he fed it and made it grow, all for the purpose, the rendering of the meat. He's put a lot of hard work, effort, and money into getting this cow to this state. So what happens now? This cow has to meet the promise of his purpose. It's not a needless killing. He needed to kill the cow to get its meat. It was his only purpose. He's not killing the cow just to see the cow dead. He's killing the cow because he has to kill the cow to meet its purpose. So that's an incorrect example of what you could call an animal version of murder. Now you show a little bit later what would be a good example of what could be called an animal version of a murder. Putting the gun to the head of a dog who's just a pet and killing him. Shooting someone's pet dog in the head is malicious because you had no other intent but just to kill the dog. But again, I see you decided to sneak in, quote, needlessly kill. Again, the farmer killing the cow to render its meat, it's not needless. He needed to kill the cow to render the meat, to get all his hard work and investment back so he can feed his family, for the cow to serve its intended purpose, why it was born, why it was raised. It's not murder, you dumbass.
Hey, you stupid bear! What the hell are you doing? Get the hell out of my trash! Go on and get! Hey, buddy, if you don't back off, I swear, I'm just gonna murder your ass, alright? You're a bear, you idiot. You can't murder me. Murder is only when a person kills another person. Oh yeah? Murdering up, buddy, you still fucking dead. Wanna try to tell me to not go through your trash again? Oh right, that's right, you can't, 'cause you're dead.
That was good, I like that.
Oh, what? You have a problem with that?
What? No, I said it was funny, you deaf cunt. And did you go out and buy that bear suit just for me? You might be a crazy motherfucker, but nobody can say you're not a dedicated crazy motherfucker.
Would you call me a violent extremist for wanting to kill you?
Yes.
What's with all these moral ultimatums? I can't just kill people for no justifiable reason without being called an extremist?
No.
Whoa, dude, talk about virtue signaling by virtue signaling about virtue signaling.
Settle down, man. Fucking hell.
And of course, Bering has to take these clips out of context and ignore how this was just a parody mirroring the same illogical arguments Bering was making himself.
Yeah, it took fuck all out of context. And I'm not sure about this parody excuse you always seem to give after you've done something that makes you look like a fucking psychopath. I'm starting to think it might just be damage control.
Repsion's a little fucking bitch.
Come on,
I fucking hate that kid. Like, I usually don't have a huge issue with people I make videos about, but, yeah, if I had the opportunity, I'd kill him. Slit his fucking throat with this knife. Really like to use this knife on him. Get out there. Like, he really does deserve to die. Like, he calls me a sociopath, I mean... He's just a piece of shit. I don't know if he's a sociopath or not, but... He's just a turd. Should just be killed. Like, he's such a smug little bitch. I'd love to just slide a knife right across his throat and just watch him, like, just look all scared when, you know, he's just dying.
This is why people need to be forced into veganism. Because everyone just acts like a stupid, ignorant, apathetic, greedy child.
Bering was trying to justify needlessly causing the suffering and death of animals, while at the same time criticizing vegans for criticizing him for his immoral behavior.
Listen to yourself. Criticising vegans for criticising him for his immoral behaviour. Mate, let's talk about immoral behaviour and the suffering of animals.
So me and Jasmine have a very special announcement. Looks like me and you are gonna have a baby. So this is our baby. Her name's Lucy. She is a vegan dog. She's eating all vegan food, so...
Okay, that's a Czechoslovakian wolf dog, a fairly new breed of dog that's only been around since the 1960s. They were bred as an attack dog for the Czechoslovakian Special Forces by mating German shepherds with Carpathian wolves. The last thing this dog is a fucking vegan.
We had our own vegan kibble for about a week and a half. Then I started cooking fresh meals with supplements, rice with vegetables, etc. Didn't work.
So another stupid rumor that's being spread around is that me and Jasmine have been feeding our dog a diet of rice and beans, some type of stupid vegan diet.
she is a vegan dog. She's eating all vegan food, so...
And that's why Lucy was sick and starving and emaciated, which isn't true.
It was obvious that there was something going on with her bowels and it was chronic, and it might have been that the vegan diet made it worse. We just let it be for what it was and we just moved on. And she kept losing weight because she kept having diarrhea. She couldn't eat anything, she couldn't digest anything. She was way too skinny, she didn't look good at all. We were all aware of that. Richard, as you all know, has mental problems and it wasn't going well. It was stressful for me and it was stressful for the puppy.
Stressful for you and the puppy? The puppy was sick and emaciated because you fucking morons were mistreating it. And you and the puppy have to dance around this fucking nut job? Jesus Christ.
I told her breeder, look, it's not going well with Richard, we need to find a new home for her. She genuinely believed I made Lucy sick and that I made her nearly die, which wasn't true. Just want to point out, she's fine. Lucy is not on a vegan diet. She is now on a mixture of raw meat and dry kibble because that's the only thing that works for her right now. Will I try a vegan diet when she's older? I might. I will also show you proof of the food I have because it was very difficult for us to decide this. We really wanted a dog on a vegan diet. I did throw all my ethics aside and I had a million of fights for Richard. Because of course he didn't want that.
So let me get this straight. You guys grossly mistreated this poor dog by feeding it a diet that was entirely inappropriate for it, to the point that it was skinny and emaciated with constant diarrhea and not able to keep any food down. And Richard was arguing with you because he couldn't stand the thought of his dog not being vegan. I'm fucking lost for words.
This dumb bitch breeder, Avalo, tries to take Lucy from us. She's been spreading lies, doing whatever she can to try to convince people that we're abusing the dog, starving her, so that the dog can be taken away from us and given back to her so she can sell Lucy and turn a profit, because that's all she fucking cares about. She only cares about making money. She doesn't really care about any of these living sentient beings that she is responsible for putting into the world.
Listen, you selfish psychotic fuckhead. You should give that dog back to the breeder. You are not fit to be responsible for another life. It's a Czechoslovakian wolf dog, for fuck's sake. I've got 2 Labradors, the most domesticated breed of dog you can find. And even they need a diet of at least 50% meat. Bare fucking minimum.
So I just made the joke that I should be able to kill Bering and he shouldn't be able to criticize me for my immoral behavior, but it's not like you have enough time to explain any of this. The video is only 7 minutes long.
Yeah, like I said, I don't give a fuck about your pathetic vegan grandstanding. Go fuck yourself. I'm sorry, I'm really pissed off about what you did to that dog. I'm gonna go and calm down. I'll leave you with my mate Cognitive Thought in the meantime.
Okay, so let's talk about veganism and why it can't work globally. Now I can argue all day about vegan deficiencies in vitamin B12, calcium, zinc, iron and vitamin D, and we could go through the absorption rate of each individual supplement, even though it's unclear how well synthetic nutrients are absorbed and used in the body, as some may be more easily absorbed while others won't be absorbed at all. You see, when you eat real food, you're not consuming single nutrients, but rather a whole range of vitamins, minerals, enzymes and cofactors that allow for optimal use by the body. Without these additional compounds, synthetic nutrients are unlikely to be used by the body in the same way as their natural counterparts, and will probably be pissed out as a waste product. As an example of this, studies show that natural vitamin E is absorbed twice as efficiently as synthetic vitamin E. Still, that's another conversation. Now when it comes to human evolution, there is evidence to support both meat and carbohydrates have helped the development of the human brain, and that's my personal stance on this, but veganism? Globally? That can't fucking work, as it would be a logistical nightmare. I mean, aside from the fact that we already live in a world with simultaneous hunger and obesity epidemics, how do you expect to farm all the produce needed? Like in my mind, I'm thinking you'd have high-rise flats that look something like this, that would either be a building used to grow vegetables using hydroponic systems and lighting, or would be used as a building that produces synthetic supplements. Now, this is me thinking outside of the box, but for the life of me, I have no idea what would happen to the animals you're trying to save. You see, the life cycle of our meat produce is regulated, and you're looking to throw that regulation out so that each species isn't butchered and instead flourishes, but to what end? Overpopulation where they die through starvation, or are you okay with other animals eating meat but not humans eating meat? Not to mention, what do we feed our carnivorous domesticated animals? Let's be fair. Veganism is nothing more than a way of life that is only seen as a global utopia by those that come from societies of convenience. Anyway, I've spoken for long enough on this subject, so thanks for letting me make my point, and back to you, Bering.
Thanks, Cog. Right, back to it.
Your entire video was about morally justifying causing the suffering and death of animals.
Mate, you can say it as many times as you like. My video wasn't about morally justifying anything to you, because I don't have to morally justify anything to you.
And you kept using appeal to traditions and appeal to nature fallacies to justify needlessly causing the suffering and death of animals.
The tradition fallacy assumes that if something is traditional, then it's right, which of course isn't the case. For example, the idea of a flat Earth is much older than the idea of a spherical Earth. But we know that the Earth isn't flat, so suggesting that it is flat because it's an older idea would be a tradition fallacy. Richard is trying to say that I'm putting forward a fallacious argument by reasoning that it's perfectly healthy to eat meat because our ancestors have eaten meat for millions of years. Richard's wrong. See, if you're arguing that something has stood up to challenges and tests for a long period of time, and your argument is clearly demonstrable, then it's not a tradition fallacy. If I were to say, I need to breathe oxygen just like people have always needed to breathe oxygen, and Richard was to jump in and say, tradition fallacy, would that make my statement incorrect? Try holding your breath for an hour to find out.
Bearing, throughout your video, you kept making the argument that eating meat caused the evolution of our big brains, but for some reason you didn't mention the fact that insects were a large part of early hominid diets, which also contributed to brain development.
That's because we were arguing about the consumption of meat, not the consumption of insects, you simpleton.
So why don't you eat insects, Bearing?
Because I don't want to? Fuck me.
You're just fucking stupid.
Pot meat kettle.
You eat meat because you like the taste.
That is correct. Plus it's good for you.
And lions eat meat because they have to survive.
Dad, don't we eat the antelope?
Yes, Simba, but let me explain. When we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass. And so, we are all connected in the great circle of life.
And then you shrivel up like a little bitch whenever a fucking vegan calls you out for your unethical behavior. Oh, boo, the vegan made me feel so bad about eating meat. How dare you? You're a vegan extremist.
A vegan directly sent me a video I disagreed with, so I made a video explaining why I disagreed with it. If you think that's shriveling up like a little bitch, are you shriveling up like a little bitch right now?
No, you started crying about how you didn't like it that a vegan made you feel guilty about causing the suffering and death of animals.
Yeah, so guilty that I announced the very first annual Vegan Gains steak night. Your perception of reality is just fucking retarded. By the way, I ended up getting over 500 photos of people's lovely steak dinners. This one was the funniest. All in your name, Richard. All in your name.
Unless you're a psychopath, many people agree that what goes on in factory farms is absolutely horrible.
Yeah, I do agree, it's heartbreaking. You didn't need to shame me into that answer.
And then in the title of your video, you called the guy an extremist. What exactly is extreme about his viewpoint? He just thinks it's wrong to needlessly cause the suffering and death of animals.
Yeah, that's fine. There's nothing extreme about that viewpoint. It's the you must have the same viewpoint as me part that gets me.
He's just trying to tell you that this is an ethical issue that he actually cares about.
I know it's an ethical issue he actually cares about. He's trying to make it an ethical issue that I care about. Now, I have my concerns about the treatment and welfare of animals before they are slaughtered, but the fact that animals are slaughtered for people to eat is not an ethical issue I care about.
Bearing, claiming you don't care isn't an argument. Just because you don't care about something, that doesn't mean it no longer matters. You know what? I don't care about the ethical issue of murdering people. I guess that means I'm just free to kill whoever I want now.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I'm 70% sure you will end up killing someone, and it's not just the lame parodies you do. There's something in your eyes that just says complete fucking psychopath.
Like, he's such a smug little bitch. I'd love to just slide a knife right across his throat and just watch him, like, just look all scared when, you know, he's just dying.
Bearing, Jack and I are making the argument that it is wrong to kill animals when it isn't necessary, and at least here in modern Western society, we don't need to eat meat. It isn't necessary. And so far, you haven't come up with a single argument as to why it is morally justifiable for us to kill and eat animals, at least here in modern Western society. So the only reason you are claiming right now that you don't care is because you are incapable of coming up with a single valid argument. You are admitting defeat.
Again, mate, that perception of reality. Let's recap. Vegan comes along to non-vegan minding his own business and says, "Hey you, I think it's wrong to eat meat. You shouldn't eat meat." Non-vegan says, "Nah, I like eating meat. Here's why." Then second vegan comes along and says, "Hey, I also think it's wrong to eat meat. You're dumb. Wouldn't it be funny if I murdered you? Stop eating meat." Non-vegan says, "Yeah, go fuck yourself." Now, Sugar Tits cooked these lovely retro lamb fajitas for dinner. I had 2.5 of them. They were delicious. Now, my question is, in what world does it signify my defeat when I get what I want and you don't get what you want? You dumb, dumb cunt.
You are too stupid to argue. So now you don't care.
Hey, buddy. I never cared.
Is that what you told your parents when you'd come home with an F? You don't care? Well, obviously failing school didn't do you any favors in whether or not you care. You're still a fucking dumbass.
Well, no, I've got a lot of respect for my parents. Now, I did get the occasional F, but I wouldn't say something like I don't care to them. They were stumping up the money to put me through school and wanted to see me do well. That'd be a cunt of a thing to say. See, I think you and I see our families in a very different light. That's probably why you go so hard on the tradition fallacy accusations. I think one of the most important things in life is learning from your elders. They've made the mistakes and learned things the hard way. They know what it's like to have tremendous success and spectacular failures. And when it comes to your parents and grandparents, they've worked their asses off to ensure you get to be alive today. I learned my profession from my dad. I spent almost 10 years working beside him and learning from him in his business. And when it was time for him to retire, I bought his business off him. Now, my dad learnt a lot of his profession from his dad. You see, Pop had the same career in his heyday. He's 96 now, and he's an incredibly successful man. He's got a real estate portfolio worth tens of millions of dollars. He still lives by himself. We lost poor old Nan a couple of years ago. He still gets around in the latest released BMW. He still meets his mates for lunch and a game of bowls, those of them who aren't dead anyway. And he still thoroughly enjoys a steak and a beer. I love spending time with Pop, mainly because he's done so many things and has so many stories to tell. And let's face it, he's 96. He's not exactly the type to be making any long-term plans, something even he chuckles about. Tell us about your grandpa.
I just got back from the funeral thing that we had. It wasn't exactly a funeral, but a bunch of family got together and I was dragged to it. But anyway, I was planning on showing you guys footage of my grandfather actually having the heart attack. As soon as the paramedics got to the house, I took out my camera and started filming. But a bunch of people in my family, my mom, my grandmother, uncles, shit like that, they threw a big fucking fit about me showing that footage on YouTube. They're perfectly fucking fine with eating foods that cause fucking heart disease and make people actually die of fucking heart attacks. But when it comes to actually showing people what happens when they eat these foods, that's just too much. So I feel better with him being dead. I know my grandmother isn't happy about it. I don't know entirely how my mom feels, but she was crying about it. His other sons, you know, they were upset, but I feel pretty happy about the whole situation.
Mate, you are a cunt of the highest order. And I mean that in the most offensive way I can mean it. You are a cunt, and you are insane. Get help.
Wow, Baring, you are so fucking stupid.
Hey, here's a fun fact. This is the longest video I have ever made. Now, my attention span wants to jump through the screen and scratch your motherfucking face off at this point, so I'm going to go and do something else for a little bit. Here's my good pal Ommegon to keep you company.
I once got flayed in a video for saying how the concept of eating meat was natural. Bad me. People like Vegan Gains are the extreme to a group that gets a bit of a pass on YouTube. That's not to say that they are entirely ignored, just that a fair amount are anti-SJW, and for larger numbers or communities it is enough to leave them alone. But as Vegan Gains is an individual, and we should call out individuals, not necessarily entire groups, for pushing bad ideas, I'm happy to offer any help in criticizing some of his ideas and methods with regards to veganism. Now, when your grandfather passes and you want to record it to promote veganism, you know you're not only a shit vegan, but also a shitty person. When you then get grumpy about it and make a video telling everyone about how you wanted to show an elderly man having a seizure was because of his meat-eating lifestyle, you know you're not only a shitty vegan, but also a shitty person. When you openly on a livestream declare that you want to cut a man's throat, kind of like how animals are in an abattoir, you know you're a shit vegan and a shitty person. When you get a kick out of hurting children and declare that you fucking hate children, you know you're a shit person. Now, unfortunately, there are plenty of people like you on YouTube, as being a shitty person is not exclusive to veganism. However, coupling that with your mentally damaged self-righteousness that completely undermines the supposed peaceful nature of wanting to preserve life and your need to violently harm others makes me wonder just how much do you actually care about living creatures that are slaughtered in the billions to give us our protein. I have a question for Vegan Gains. What does he care about more, life or views? Because he has confused that in a few videos and would love to know if he is happy to call for the death of meat eaters for views, all the while making vegans look like blood-soaked madmen that get a kick out of ironic controversy.
Bang.
You are a fucking dumbass. Jack Green was bringing forward ethical arguments, and you tried to dismiss those ethical arguments.
Cunt, you are the last person who should be lecturing anyone on anything to do with ethics.
I am not scared. I am not scared of this. I am not. because I'm going to beat this once and for all.
This poor bloke is talking about testicular cancer, which he has just been diagnosed with for the second time in his life.
Pete, you're terrified of dying, you've bawled your eyes out crying in your other cancer update videos, and the only way you can cope with this fear of dying is by trying to convince yourself that, oh yeah, no matter what, I'll pull through. Well, you're a pussy. You are the definition of a coward. You're fine with giving suffering and death to other sentient beings, innocent animals that did nothing to you, but when it comes time for you to face suffering and death, oh, you bawl your eyes out, you start crying, and you expect other people to give you sympathy and support. But you have to throw a tantrum and act like a little crybaby because people said things that you disagree with on the internet.
Yeah, the whole testicular cancer thing might have been a factor as well.
You don't have it that fucking bad, so stop acting like a little fucking crybaby and don't expect to get sympathy when you can't give sympathy to animals. Cancer is very much a diet-related disease. Vegans have the lowest overall risk of cancer, even when compared to healthy populations of meat eaters. Yeah, so great job, Pete. We're all aware that you have cancer. Great job spreading awareness of yourself. You got cancer, it doesn't make you a fucking hero.
Oh my god, you stupid bear! You killed my grandma and my grandpa!
Oh, I'm sorry, kid. Next time I'll give you plenty of notice so you can have your camera set up and ready to go. Don't want to miss an opportunity to exploit the death of a family member for YouTube views.
You keep trying to bring up this argument that meat made us smarter when all you're really doing is just misrepresenting research and the opinions of experts.
In my description, you'll find links to 7 different articles that support the idea that eating meat helped our brains grow to the size that they did. These articles were published by UC Berkeley, Harvard University, National Geographic, Time Magazine, and the National Association of Science Writers, among others. I was excited to have a look at the one reference you provided debunking this idea, but you forgot to include the link.
First of all, I didn't forget to include the link. YouTube just didn't update my description until almost a day after the video was published.
If you didn't forget to include the link, then you wouldn't need to wait for YouTube to update your description.
Secondly, I never attempted to debunk the idea that meat aided in our brain development. I was only demonstrating that your explanation of how diet related to brain development was overly simplistic and it misrepresented the science.
Again, you colossal spastic. We were talking about how meat influenced the evolution of our brains, and meat did influence the evolution of our brains in a major way. We weren't talking about the science and early man's diet in general, so I didn't mention the science and early man's diet in general.
I am superior to the animals that other people eat. You are superior to the animals that you eat, but that doesn't mean you should eat them.
We're superior because we fucking ate them.
You repeatedly argued that meat just made us smarter, and you did this to give people the idea that eating meat is morally justifiable.
You're like a broken record that has Down syndrome.
Moral agency, abstract thought, abstract reasoning, all the stuff. We are superior to animals in many, many ways.
You know what the main way is? We've got bigger brains and therefore more brain power than most animals. But big brains use lots of energy. Did you know that the human brain uses about 20% of your body's energy at rest? At least double that of most other animals. And do you know how we've been getting that energy for the last 2.5 million years? By eating other animals.
So you even admitted it yourself. Meat was just a dense calorie source for early hominids, which allowed for brain development.
Yeah, that's right. What do you mean admitted it? That was my fucking point.
There isn't any special nutritive property in meat that is required for brain development. It doesn't magically just spark brain development. All you need is an adequate supply of calories.
Yeah.
So if you weren't trying to argue that meat just magically causes brain development, then why wouldn't you just get your calories from a source other than meat, you know, like plants, since you can do that as a modern human being living in Western society?
Because ultimately, I don't think we can get enough nutrients from just eating plants. Remember what I said before about learning from our elders? Well, I don't just mean your parents and grandparents. Do you find it odd that nobody has ever discovered a vegan tribe? Not one tribe that was isolated, then came into contact with other humans, has lived on a vegan diet. Explain that to me.
So clearly you were deliberately trying to misrepresent the science and put out this idea that if you eat meat, it'll just magically make you smarter so that you could justify consuming animal products.
You, on the other hand, get so emotional about the Church of Veganism that you find it necessary to make a 30-minute response video waving a gun around and frothing at the mouth, screaming about blowing my brains out. You fucking wanker.
Oh, I see. So I'm the crazy emotional one when all you can do is make logical fallacies in place of actual arguments?
Yes, you are most definitely the crazy emotional one. There's even been Change.org petitions to get you to admit yourself to psychiatric recovery clinics. They even had a specific clinic named.
How about I just take my gun and put you out of your fucking misery? It's not murder, it's blowing your fucking brains out. It's funny how you criticize SJWs.
Thank you, I do try.
But here you are creating your own little echo chamber where you deliberately misrepresent what other people say so that no one can question you. The whole host of environmental factors and selective pressures is what caused the rapid expansion of our intellect. Not just eating meat, you're just oversimplifying the science because you're a dumbass.
Yeah, I never said eating meat was the sole reason our brains grew to the size that they did.
Yes, you did, repeatedly throughout your video.
Did I? Well, why don't you show me just one instance of where I said eating meat was the sole reason our brains grew to the size that they did? Just one.
You used meat and the evolution of our brain to justify eating meat today in modern times, which gives the strong suggestion that you think eating meat would just somehow magically increase our intellect?
Oh, right, so I didn't say it. You got the strong suggestion. And I deliberately misrepresent what other people say. Fucking hell. Now, while Vegan Gains did make a 30-minute video address to me, I'm not going to make a video responding to the whole thing, because he more or less sits there for 30 minutes repeating himself over and over, and I just can't be fucked.
I wasn't repeating myself, you just kept using the same logical fallacies over and over again, and I think it's because you think an appeal to tradition fallacy was your strongest argument, and of course you wouldn't actually show that in this video because then you'd make yourself look like a retard. So I also had a bit of an argument with Bering in the comments section, and not only did he actually admit to using logical fallacies in his previous video, but he continued to morally justify eating meat by using appeal to popularity fallacies. I like eating meat is legal and socially acceptable. He literally can only come up with logical fallacies to support his claims, and then he said, a whole bunch of scientists and academics who know more about this than you say that eating meat is good for you. He just made up this bullshit blanket statement to try to win the argument.
These articles were published by UC Berkeley, Harvard University, National Geographic, Time Magazine, and the National Association of Science Writers, among others.
I also pointed this out to him in the comment section, and this is what he said as a response. I wouldn't have a clue about the health issues you're now trying to argue. You may very well be right, but I was never claiming you were wrong. I never even brought them up. So first, Bering claims that, oh, all these experts and scientists and academics, they'll actually tell you that eating meat is healthy and they know way more than you do. Then when I actually point out that some of the most knowledgeable experts in the world assert that human beings are herbivorous animals and that meat is the main cause of our most common chronic diseases, oh, I don't know, man. Like, yeah, maybe you're right, but I don't know about any of this.
I clearly don't know the finer details about the science of food as you do, but like I keep saying, I don't give a fuck. And I'm certainly not going to spring into action on the advice from some cunt who put a fucking wolf on a vegan diet. Now, this is not an argument that I came looking for. It does not interest me. And plenty of scientists do say that eating meat is good for you. Again, check the links that I provided.
You claimed that you were almost finished working on your own video until you realized that this wasn't the original. So how did you know I was married? Only 49 seconds into your video, you made that stupid rape joke about my wife?
I assumed you were married. Most normal people are married. And I didn't realise how much of a fucked article you were at the time. I assumed you were a normal person.
So it looks like—
Seriously, cunt, I'm not doing any more of this. Just a couple of things before I go. As you're standing there grandstanding about your concern for all the poor animals, do you ever consider the fact that all those plants you eat were almost definitely fertilised using blood and bone from the slaughterhouse floor? Or manure from the factory farm? And what about all the pesticides used on them? Is everyone a cunt for standing by while all those poor insects get gassed? Or don't insects count in your game of pick and choose? Go fuck yourself.